everyone. Today we are live with the amazing, wonderful Pisces. And if you have not heard that name, maybe you've heard of her amazing products at your neighborhood stripper. Now she has an awesome social media account. Her website is popping and oh my God. No, there's literally an earthquake happening.
Shut up, no.
Dead ass.
Get under the table.
Oh my God. That's crazy. We just had an earthquake. Ah!
What?
They heard
it's
you were
like
coming on the
chemistry.
interview.
I think we did that.
They said, what? Stripper collaboration? What a way to kick you in. All right.
Right?
On that note, your neighborhood stripper is here, and we are going to talk about a whole bunch of amazing stuff, earth-shattering stuff, earth-shaking stuff. The topic of today, we asked before we started, what should we talk about? And Pisces said colorism, racism in strip clubs. And we decided that is an hour in itself. That is a full discussion because it's not had enough. We haven't talked about it enough. And so let's start the conversation. First of all, I want to start not with a topic, but with the person who's talking to us today. For someone who has never heard of your business or your brand, give us a little background and context about you.
Well, I've been a stripper for like 10 years or maybe 11. I lost count after 10. I've been traveling a lot of places, from Florida to Phoenix to North Carolina, Boston. I'm just anywhere in the United States. I haven't been out of state just yet. Mainly because it is hard to get into the clubs as a dark-skinned woman. It's not just in America. Let's see, I am a single mother of one. He's 11 years old. He's a middle schooler. And I don't know, what else would you like to know?
Oh, fantastic start. That's a whole lot to start with. So you mentioned that you've traveled a whole lot. I know so many dancers that have worked one club. They find one club and they work that club for a decade or two. How did this happen, right? Specifically, how did you start traveling dancing? Let's start with your first club ever. Where was that? You said, was it Florida when you started, or?
It was in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And I honestly forgot the name of it, but it was a nice club. It was okay. It was a lot of punk rock music, a lot of metal. I danced to the pop. Yeah. And what started was Houston, because when I started dancing, I transferred to Onyx in Dallas or whatever. And me and my best friend were working together, and she went to Houston with a group of other people. So I went to go check up on her, and that's how I ended up going back and forth to check up on my friend, and ended up dancing with her.
And do you remember your first audition?
Oh, did I even have an audition? I think I had the first time I got hired, I think I just had to send pictures. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yes or no. And then I went in and they told me what to bring. And I had I don't think I had the right stripper shoes.
Who does?
I tried, but I was like, wait, they were high, but I was like, I don't think these are the right shoes. They were all slippery and shit. And they had the little curve on it. Anyways.
Yeah, the little
yeah. I'm like, oh no, those aren't stripper shoes anymore. But yeah.
Whoever started in the right shoes, shame on them, because it should be a rite of passage to wear some Steve Maddens and be in pain and get blisters and be like, oh, they look comfortable. Why are they comfortable?
Have you ever been to the stripper shoe store and you buy shoes, but they're not actually stripper shoes? And you're like, fuck.
I bought shoes based on they look cute and then didn't bother to try them on, and then they've been in my closet for 3 years. Is that a mistake? So you get hired in Fort Worth, you start traveling to Houston. And I was reading, and you can correct me on this, I was reading on your site, you talked about there being a bit of an intermission there, a time where you stopped for a little while, almost as soon as you
Yeah.
started.
I ended up getting 3 jobs. I was working at Crocs, Five Guys Burgers and Fries, and then Blockbuster Warehouse. Okay, that shows you how old I am. They're like, Blockbuster Warehouse, what is that? It's Netflix now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Redbox, Netflix, one of the two. But yeah, I was doing those 3 jobs, and I ended up getting in a car accident. And you know what? During that time, I was also go-go dancing.
Wow.
I was go-go dancing on like a Thursday, and I mainly did it because they would love to tell me that Black girls aren't go-go dancers. They don't get hired for go-go dancing, and so I decided to do it to prove them wrong. That's what I did for a little bit. I had my own night and everything, but I stopped that after I had my car accident, and I just went back to dancing because I had lost my place. Baby daddy wouldn't help, so I went back to dancing.
And for someone who maybe hasn't read that article from you, what caused you to stop? So I think, you know, when people start dancing, a lot of people I think walk in and they think it's going to be like everyone's going to be cool with it and butterflies and rainbows, and now it's a little bit more like that. But you know, there had to be a pretty big reason to stop, right? So what in your journey made you?
I stopped 2 times. It was 2 different times where I just took a break, stopped, had a regular job. And the first time was my family, well, my mother and my sister had found out, and well, they didn't have nice words to say. So I stopped, and I got a job, and after I got married, I guess that's when I started. I don't know why. I just knew that I wanted to dance and make money. And that's when that started again. But after when we had an argument, and that kind of, I ended the whole night. Like, I was in the middle of the night, and I just left, and the manager was like, "You better not fucking come back." I was like, "You don't have to fucking worry about it." Oh man, my ex used to like piss me off, where I just didn't give a fuck what I said to other people, and that was one reason, I guess. Yeah.
And I think that is such a common experience. I can't tell you how many entertainers go through this process of, you know, being in the industry, one foot in and the other out, because of all these pressures that don't get talked about that much, right? Because it almost feels shameful. Like, that's our family life. That doesn't happen in the club. We're not supposed to talk about it. But it's so real, and that pressure can be so real, because at this point, when you're working the 4 jobs, is your son already born?
Yeah.
So you have a baby and you're working 4 jobs to support that child, because the frustration of what you were hearing at home was that much that you're taking on 4 jobs. Like, that's no small thing. So what sort of things are happening? And you can, you know, you don't have to go into it if that's a spot you don't want to touch on, but what does that feel like? And for someone in that position, looking back on it now, what advice would you give them? Someone that's feeling that pressure from family, judgment from others, that's sort of half in, half out.
I wouldn't just say one thing, because there's so many things. It's like, love yourself, and by loving yourself, you got to make your own choices. Is this a choice that you are willing to make? Are you willing to say, hey, this is what I do? Because if it isn't, then maybe you need to second guess it. If it's not something you're confident in, you need to be confident in it. That's how I feel. And if you went that first day and you went dancing and you did okay, and you come back and you're hearing all of this bullshit, just think of that time where you were there and you were making all that money being comfortable. And because honestly, you make the money, you can go away from those people. I mean, you don't have to have them in your ear all the time. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's so valuable, because so many entertainers will leave the industry either because of a partner that's being controlling or manipulative, because of family members that don't approve. And it's one of the questions I get the most, and it's always, it's always a personal choice. Obviously, for some people, this isn't the right industry, but it's so heartbreaking to see younger entertainers who really love it and enjoy it and are doing well and feel all this pressure to do something else. And like, it sounds like you find out, even with 4 jobs, like, your standard of living changes so much, and the time you have for the people you love and for your child and all these super important things changes. And it's so unfortunate, I think, that sometimes the voice we have in our ear is not from people who are worried about our success and our happiness as much as, what they come off to the world.
Yeah, what they look like. Yeah.
And when did that change? So now you have these 2 times where you've gone back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
How do you end up going from that sort of back and forth to you're a neighborhood stripper, right? I'm a dancer. I'm open about it. I'm in your face about it, right? What did that journey look like?
Well, it started with me making my own Instagram page, and then because I'm not a big picture taking person, but I've grown. And I was just posting things, and then I start seeing other strippers, and then they had side hustles, and I was just like, what should my side hustle be? And throughout that whole time, I'm just trying to figure out what should it be. And as I'm asking myself, like, the universe is like guiding me. So like, it was weird. Like, when I had that little health issue with myself, and I couldn't work for maybe 2 months straight. And I was just like, where am I going to find extra income if I stop dancing? Because yes, I can dance. I feel like I can dance as long as I want to, okay? But if I'm like injured or something, that's not the right mindset. And then I don't know, then what is it? I don't want to say it wrong because I've been thinking about college. Not FAFSA, but what is the FAFSA and CESTA? That's when that movement started coming in, and that's when everyone else started feeling like a pressure, I guess. Everyone started feeling pressure at that time, and then I guess that's when the passion grew, and then the whole colorism of it, and how even though I was able to reach out to people, I still felt like it was hard to because of the color of my skin. I don't want to feel like a victim of it, but at the same time, it is what it is.
Right. And I think sometimes the nuance gets lost, right? Because people, we love to put things in boxes and make it as simple as possible for ourselves to understand. And you see a lot of the discussion, especially in sort of social progressivism and the social justice movements about, do your own thing and this and that, and don't be a victim, and we're survivors and not that. And it becomes, I can do it, I can overcome, put a smile on your face, switch your attitude, switch your mood. And the lived reality for so many people in our industry is that it doesn't matter how smiley you are when you get to the club, right? If you have a certain skin color, or you're perceived as, like, before this talk, we were chatting about this, calling a club and them saying things like, oh, you can't be ghetto, or you can't be ratchet, right? You smiling more is not going to change that, right? It's not fundamentally changing that. So it's so crucial to be careful with the language we use around it, and especially for people who are not in that position, to not show up with that disrespect. To me, it seems so disrespectful to say, hey, it's because you're not trying hard enough. right? Like as if that's the reason that there's
Yeah.
4 or 5 dancers of color in a club.
Like you're not pretty enough. That's definitely not the case.
Right. Yeah. So let's, guys, I think it's a great transition point to start talking about that focus. So colorism in clubs. For someone who's never even heard of the term, they're like, what does that even mean? What is colorism?
In a strip club, it's color. Some color gets favoritism, others get treated like shit. So colorism and favoritism, it kind of goes hand in hand. But then also the colorism, for Black people, because I feel like colorism, the reason why white strippers don't understand what colorism is because it's mainly a Black thing, but the racist part is a club thing. And so the other dancers don't see it as much. They don't know what's going on because they're not really behind the scenes seeing and feeling what's going on. But it's really favoritism and just putting others down that aren't, honestly, I can't fathom it. I don't even understand it. I don't understand why dark skin is less fortunate than lighter skin. It irritates me.
This is something that is so internalized in our culture that we've been miseducated about. In this country, people are miseducated about that from birth. From everything from public school to what they see in magazines to every social interaction is so painted by this dynamic. And the thing is, for people who don't live that way, they don't see it. A lot of people who work in the same club will say things like, oh, that's not how management is. Oh, management is great. They don't talk like that. Oh, I can pick all of my own shifts. Oh, my tip outs are really low. And they don't even realize how it affects every step of your journey as an entertainer. Someone who's in that position who's going, well, I don't see it. I don't know it. It's not my experience. What type of things do you see entertainers of color, specifically Black women, deal with in the club that their colleagues are not dealing with on an everyday basis?
I would say the hiring process. That's like the hardest thing to do, is just to, like, no matter how beautiful you dress up and the right outfit you got on and the right heels, it doesn't matter for them. They're just gonna look at you, think, no. They don't care. They'll see your skin color and say straight up no. And that's the hardest part for us. And then when we're finally in there, it's like we have to just stay on point so that we're not getting fired. We cannot give them a reason to fire us, because they will find, if they don't like you, they will find any and every way to fire you.
I think a lot of people are aware that the hiring part, especially, it's heinous. I mean, it's in your face, right? The amount of entertainers that show up, and then how many of them, after they go through auditions, you can see an entertainer of color show up perfectly ready, amazing stage set, great energy. Yeah. And then an entertainer with no experience, or someone who was fired from 2 clubs in that city, who doesn't care about their job, show up and get the job. And you're going, this is not the same presentation, performance, approach, anything, professionalism. But you touched on something so important too, which is it's after hiring too, right? It doesn't just stop at the door, right? Like so many entertainers will get away with, getting blackout drunk every night, or dealing with customers a certain way. And that's not the same, right? Like you can't walk into the club, I imagine, when you feel this targeted, like, okay, management is already watching for me, and pull any of that. And how does that affect interactions with customers? Is that something that's I imagine it's on your mind at every part of being in the club, right? So how does that affect how you talk to customers?
Well, it's more of the staff that makes me uncomfortable sometimes, but the customers, you might get like a racist person now and then, someone who's just straight up ignorant. But honestly, they love Black women. Like, they treat us like queens. They love us. Some people, on the other hand, are still with the whole, if you're darker, treat them like shit. But not most people. Not most people. But a lot of us, we have to get hired in a day shift, and it is hard for us to even get on night shift. I've quit a lot of places because they wouldn't even let me go on night shift, and I know I would have made more money on night shift than I would in the day. And when we play music, right, we can't dance to the music we listen to, like hip hop, rap. I listen to all music, honestly. And so I'll be like, Tim, give me some Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And then but if I asked for like a ludicrous song, they're like, mm-mm. But the other dancers can dance to Gucci Mane and Kevin Gates, and I have to dance to something soft.
Right. Right. The irony of that is so profound. Like the through all of those things, you're still traveling the country, you're still making your money, you're still doing really well. And I want to talk about how you're doing that. What decisions have you made in your career to create those opportunities, even in a space that is that frustrating and that exclusionary?
Decisions I've made, that would be letting certain people go so that blessings can come for me, because there are some people that were blocking my blessings, and that was probably the first thing I had to do, and some of it was really hard and heartbreaking. It took me a while just to grieve, okay? And after that, after I just saw my blessings, I just kept going with the flow. I listened to my spirit guides. When I saw something, they communicate with me through electricity, music, just really media. And when I see it, I go for it. And usually, most of the time, it's something that needs to happen. Like the Guam incident, I was gonna get it, but I guess like the fact that they rejected me and it was on paper was a journey that I had to take. To get rejected was something that I had to take and have people talk about the whole situation. So I see my failures and I see them as, ways to help me and how they helped me.
And what was the Guam situation?
It was like a messages saying that I was ready to dance. We had talked maybe 3 months before, and I was saying I want to go out there this time, and the lady was like, oh yeah, of course. And then a week before, she says, oh, well, we don't need any more dark-skinned girls. So, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And again, for anyone listening who's still wondering, is this a real thing at clubs?
It's a real thing. We have evidence, and then everyone's still like, what? For your color? Never. Yes, always. For a while now.
for a while now. Yeah, and you hate to see it. You hate to see other entertainers doing this. I don't see it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to listen to it. And it's comfortable. I think it's very comfortable to ignore things like this that are in your face, which is why most people take that route. But it's undeniable. I mean, this is not the first instance, right? You're describing this, and there have been lawsuits all over the country. I'll include a couple of links below. There were, I believe in Mississippi, there was a large lawsuit of discrimination at entrance. Same thing, dark women being told they couldn't audition, that there were enough, that we filled the quota, right? You hear this at every club, that there's a quota of women of a certain race, like us.
Girls.
It's such a real thing. And for people who are listening and who are going, okay, shit, this is a reality, and maybe I haven't been acknowledging that, what are some ways for people to be involved in those conversations? What are ways for people to be helpful or to be strategic or useful when dealing with clubs, when they are in a position of privilege, right? When they can show up at the door and get the job?
I think it starts with the door girl.
Mhm.
The door girl stops us from doing a lot of shit, but then once after the door girl, it's the manager. Because the girls, you know, I've had girls vouch for me and try to get me hired, and it's like managers still don't listen. Not all managers. Some of them are just like, so what? Who the fuck cares? She's your friend. Boo hoo.
Right.
You know. So it's like I'm not quite. I know there's something, but I'm not quite sure how it should be handled.
Mhm.
Because I'm not quite sure how what their power is, what they can do within that club and with that manager and things like that. If somebody has the actual power, I don't know if they would actually do it
Mhm.
because they're afraid to lose their job at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard that a lot on that last post we made about this, right? A lot of people were like, well, I see it, but it, I don't want to stand out or say something because then I'm risking my job, and it brings up so many conversations that are happening in the community right now about sort of, in California, it's looking like a unionization conversation, but I think more broadly, it's looking like how do we have some authority, some control, some discussion that is a two-way street with management. And I think you gave a really great tip, which is talk to management on behalf of dancers, vouch for dancers, even if a manager is not going to listen.
Yeah.
Create a welcoming environment and create a sense of camaraderie where people can feel like, hey, I'm coming to your club. Can you talk to your manager for me? Or offer to do that. Create more of that, as entertainers. And another thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially seeing your posts and your information, is that especially with social media, how powerful it can be for people just to share the stuff you're working on, right? Just to share your platform and the discussion, right? Instead of saying me, and this is about me, and this is, I relate, and I'm trying to be helpful. Like, link to this page, right? Link to.
What was it? Dear Black Stripper. I felt like after she posted something about the whole colorism and racism of it all. I guess you re-sparked the conversation because at first I sparked the conversation, but it didn't last long. And I guess now that there's more than one of us, and because I can see a lot of other, I guess, Black stripper social medias, they're speaking up on it. And to my Black strippers, my tip is to speak up on it because a lot of them feel like they're not being heard. I feel like I'm not being heard, but I'm not going to stop talking about it because the one thing they say about Black women's voices are they are loud. They are loud. So we just got to keep talking about it. They'll hear us.
Mm-hmm. In the club, do you see any reaction like that from entertainers, like that sort of colorism, that kind of racism? Do you see it in entertainers that you've worked with, or in small or big ways, or do you feel like it's the management and the staff and the process?
With the dancers, I feel like the dancers are friendly. A lot of them don't see it that way with the colorism and things like that. Now, like I said, in the Black clubs, colorism is a big thing because some of the dancers, as in the dancers wise, that some of the dancers, light skins go against dark skins, and that's ridiculous too. Some of the light skins think they're better than dark skinned ladies, and then because of that, the customers come in and they also think the same way. So with that, it goes with the dancers. I feel like the dancers should change their mind frame and do something about that because the customers are going off their energy. Now for the white strip clubs, the dancers are nice. I haven't met. They're pretty like oblivious about it all because every time I speak on it, they're just like, what?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you know what? We do have about like 3 something. They just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, just right here. Yeah, again, it's the headphones, right? That sort of going through life like,
I mean, it's not like the managers are gonna go out and tell them.
Right, exactly. Just because they're not telling you doesn't mean it's not happening. So yeah, being alert and awake at the club. And for someone who is sort of traveling and dancing and is dealing with this stuff at the door, what are some, I think it's important to talk about the structural issues and how we can do better as a community. But I also think, a lot of times for a single individual who's traveling and going club to club, it can be like, okay, that's a big picture discussion that's happening. I'm an individual. I'm one person just trying to live my life and do my job and be able to get hired. Do you have any tips for auditioning or talking to management or going through that process for entertainers who are maybe just starting out or who are just starting traveling?
I would say make sure it's a club that you believe you're gonna like, that you think you're gonna like. Don't just pick a club because you need money or whatever, because sometimes that club is not safe for you. And make sure to have a club when you're traveling. Like, okay, so when I went to Boston, I wanted to try out the other clubs, but I made sure that I had at least one club that I was already hired at. Like I went to the club. I didn't go to the club. I went to the club's page and I did a DM, asked if they were hiring, because closed mouths don't get fed. I just asked if they were hiring and they were like, yeah, we just ended up having a whole conversation and then the lady ended up booking me. So I didn't even get to try out the other clubs, but I had a club that I knew I was going to make money from. And in Vegas, I didn't do that. But honestly, it was hard to do that in the beginning period. So I kind of just went on a limb on that one. I'm kind of a risk taker.
Yeah, gotta be in this industry. You have to be, from approaching customers to going into auditions. It's always a risk, and it's even more of a risk when you are a person of color, right? I was talking to Young Pole Master this week, and the way he described it was, doing twice the work for the same outcome. Looking twice as good and being twice as prepared, and dealing, unfortunately, with twice the no at the door. So that preparation of that process becomes even more important.
Have that one just in case shit goes wrong.
Yeah, and for anyone traveling, by the way, that's a great tip. And I love that what you've said about contacting clubs through social media, hitting them up through email. I think that's a super smart thing. A lot of dancers don't utilize that. And it means they're showing up with very little information, which more information is in the audition process for sure. Is there anything more on this topic that you would like for someone listening to hear? Any resources you'd want them to check out?
Well, all the resources is in my directory.
I like
local stripper. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else. We pretty much said it all.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have cleared my throat chakra.
And is there anything else not related to this topic about the industry or about what you're working on? Like anything you're excited about or anything that's frustrating you, like anything in the dancer space?
I am excited that I am going to Boston, to that one club I was talking about. I'm going to Boston for Halloween, and they may put me on the books because up there you get paid hourly. And then you get benefits and because you're an actual employee, but it's not like $12, it's like $25 an hour kind of thing. And you also get to keep your tips. So I'm just like, yes, yes. This is what I want. I want stability. Yes. I'm so excited about that. It was closed down and then they just reopened it, and their grand opening is around the Halloween holiday.
And is the club you're working now a contractor club?
They have like two separate choices, you can be a contractor or you can be the employee on books. but I feel like the ones they have, the one on books, it has more benefits for me because I'm looking for stability. And I just the whole not knowing how much I'm gonna make. Plus I keep my tips. Like, I'm like, what? Hourly and tips? Yes, book me.
As it should be, as it could
I'm
be.
here. I'm buying a house. It's done with.
So what's next for you as an entertainer and as a sort of content creator, as a business person? What's in your next, what's next on your list? And I know for dancing, you said possibly going up to Boston. So, as a business person, as a mom, what's next on your growth?
I'm not quite sure yet. Not quite sure yet. I just know that I'm focusing on this brand because it's not just for me, it's for the whole community. So I feel like I need to stay focused on it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So for people who want to check more out, we're going to include links below to all of your information for your app, as well as for the website. You have some blog articles on there. Your Instagram also has a whole lot of content that will link people to. Thank you so much for your time. It has been a pleasure talking. And if you guys want to check out more interviews, you can go ahead and click below for lots of other amazing content and interviews on our channel.